Sapatat Kamyoy. What I just said in the people's language is, it's so great to see you all today. Hi, my name is Cher Thomas, and I am the Indigenous Seamstress. It's so nice to record again, take a minute to say what's up, say hi. I've been trying, like, kind of like jumping in and out of YouTube. I've been sharing some photos with you guys. I'm really trying to figure out what on earth are y'all interested in, because what I think you're interested in, you're not. And what I think is just some tiny little blip of a half a moment becomes like this full on conversation in the comment section. And I'm just like, oh my. I have no clue. But anyway, the past month we have grown this channel to over 3,000 subscribers. That is bonkers. That's amazing and that's wonderful. And thank you all so much for all of your support. I have received all of your messages, all of your kind donations. One person even bought me a camera. Can you believe it? It's on its way. Like, literally, I checked the tracking. It's getting here on Monday. Like, what? So we are going to start rocking and rolling with all the different art projects once the camera comes in. That's really kind of what I'm waiting for, to be quite honest with you. But in the meantime, we're still kicking it on the laptop, old school style, and we're going to go ahead and get it on and pop in. One of the videos I did for you guys in the past month was my welcome to my channel video. And in that video, I I created a comment thread where y'all can ask your questions for me. And so here I am answering them for you. So let's get started. Okay, first question. What is the symbolism of your aesthetic? What do you mean? I guess in a nutshell, I'm going to say the contemporary Indigenous experience. To me, that is what I truly symbolize, try to put forth as an artist. I try to put a snapshot of who we are. And one of the ways that I see who we are is truly a juxtaposition of ancient aesthetics with contemporary skill and know how. And it's one of the, it's, like, it's just this screwed up mix match, because sometimes I do use really super old school traditional sewing methods, and then sometimes I use super old school pottery designs from 3,000 years ago. And then sometimes I'll use a new contemporary basket design that somebody created in the past 60 years. And then I'm using super new, basically polyester plastic fabrics. And then the next second I'm using like hand woven silk. And then the next second after that, like, it's just, I go back and forth, and I'm constantly mixing and messing with timelines, with aesthetics, with technique, and with and all of that. So I guess, like, the symbolism behind all of my whole entire body of work would be my answer to who are we as Indigenous people today. And what my personal specialty as a designer, as an artist, as a traditional dressmaker, etc., is to juxtapose different cultures. I've done that most of my career. If there's anything that really earned me my true bread and butter, it's that I have this ability to mix and match different tribal groups, even different races. I once did an Italian, Mexican, and Tayano, excuse me, dress that was made for somebody who is also part Navajo. I believe she was Navajo. Yeah, because it was a Navajo skirt. Anyway, and so, I'm always kind of screwing with different aesthetics and different designs, and it's whatever the client brings forth to me. They're like, oh, well, this means something for my family, this means something for my father's side, this means something for my mother's side. And so we just kind of all mix it together. And I say that's the contemporary Indigenous experience, because the real contemporary Indigenous experience is one that is often one of mixed cultures. Whether it's somebody like me who's from several different tribes, like I am Akameratam, I'm Kokapa, I'm Yavapai, I'm Hishidan and I'm part Navajo. So that's 5 different tribal groups. And each of those tribes have its own language and its own culture and its own aesthetic and its own preferable colors or preferred colors and its own cuts and styles and preferred fabrics. And so, how do you mix all that up together into one big piece? And that's what I do for a living. I help indigenous people put themselves into one little kitten caboodle, nice cute little package with a nice little bow tie on it, and and then I present them, this is who I am, and that's what I'm always trying to do. And the overall symbolism of what I am doing as an artist, as a designer in Native American clothing, is to highlight and to show our reality as who we are in this day and in this time, and to acknowledge that being of in this day and of this time is also a mixture of the super super ancient and the super super contemporary, because that's who and how and what we are. We are ancient people living in a contemporary context, and so that's always been the symbolism of my work. Okay, next question. What tools do you use, and what tools would y'all use in the past? What tools do I use? Very contemporary tools. I have like a regular pair of shears. I have a hardcore sewing machine. I have an electric iron. Those are the tools that I use in the past. However, oof, which tribe? uh, okay, which era? um, I guess. Well, I know what you mean. I think you mean Akimerotum, which is my primary tribal group. The Autumn would use various needles. In the There's so much time that we have to talk about and take into consideration. Okay, so I'm dyslexic, so this camera is messing with my eyes. Okay, so this is all of time. This is all of time. Yes, get your eyes together, Cher. Okay. So this is all the time. Half of that time is ancient prehistoric, and then half of that time is past. Actually, three-quarters of the time is ancient aesthetic, and then the other quarter is contemporary, or what is considered historical. Historical clothing in my world begins at 1500. However, my people have been here since time immemorial. The earliest recollection, not recollection, but the earliest found evidence of my tribal group being in this area dates back to about 3 or 4 thousand years ago. So there's a lot of ground to cover. Uh, I would say ancient Hookaham. I believe they used copper needles that they made themselves, and they also had bells that were used in the sewing process. It was like a very small round bell, and I really don't. I remember not hearing, but I remember I toured a museum and we talked extensively about the clothing that they had made, and the instrument that they used was very similar to a like a seed or like a bell. It's really a bell. It's really what it is, and they would use the top of the bell to puncture, I believe, and then that's how they would cord and wrap, and it was very similar to the one thread corset wrapping. It was very, very similar to that, except it was on the sides, almost like a kirtle, but not exactly. It was a lot lighter. But you didn't ask me about motif. You asked me about tools. And then when we got to, it's still prehistoric time, but it was before contact with the Akameratam, we stopped using needles. It was extremely rare for us to use needles. Instead, what we started to do was we started to loom our own fabrics that was very close to muslin. And those fabrics were usually made to size. So there really wasn't any need for us to have things like a scissor or a pair of scissors or shears or needles, because you just tied everything in. And this was also the era where we had tie-in dresses, which I call like rack dresses. And basically all they really are just large pieces of fabric, ripped into and ripped on the body and made for the person who was wearing it. And there were certain folds, like at the waistline, at the bust line, above the bust, below the bust, that held the bust up, that cinched the waist in, that did all this different work. And uh, so clothing was engineered as opposed to being, I guess, manufactured. I guess that's kind of the best way to put it. in the more contemporary times after we had contact with the missionaries, that's when we were introduced to, I believe, other types of needles. However, tribal groups rarely use those, or my specific tribal groups rarely use those. We started to use thorns instead, like the thorns of a cacti or a desert tree or bush. That's usually what we used. And then we started to create more finer pieces of clothing, like what is basically cotton muslin. And when we started to use a much, much lighter, finer type of fabric, when we started to create those fabrics, that's when we also changed needles. We went away from the natural thorns. Instead, we used those thorns for tattooing as opposed to making clothing. Instead, what we used was the hairs of a javelina, like a boar hair, and so it helped to keep the thread into, like, without, it's really good for not making big holes, because those thorns had really big, they would make really big holes in the fabric, and it was such a pain. And so the people switched to the javelina. And when you kill a javelina, you pull the hairs, and then if you take the hairs, you kind of like like how you have a belt and like that, but you would do it with this little hair, and the hair would split, and then, or you would fold the hair in half, and then you would have it. Oh, you didn't ask about method, you asked about tools, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's what we started using. And then we got introduced into the even more contemporary era, like the era of my grandparents and myself, where we were introduced to sewing machines and scissors and shears and all those other fun things. Is there a dress or design that is limited to a particular type of person? My type. Is there a kind of, sort of, not really. I think it varies from tribe to tribe. Again, there's 600 tribes. What I have noticed is that there's variance in colors. Children, okay, tiny little babies have pastel pink, baby, sky blue, etc. And then we get into childhood age, elementary school, and that's primary colors. From there, we go into adolescence. Adolescence is very bright mixed colors or secondary colors, like really hot pink, really bright magenta, lime green, acid green. Oh, acid green is huge with these teenagers. And well, not maroon, but we start to see orange. These secondary mixture colors, like purple. We start to see that in adolescence, and then it goes into, I want to say, like young adulthood, middle age, if that makes any sense. I guess post marriage, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, or after college. Ugh, but not everybody goes to college. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. Something like that. Like when you get a little older, the colors start to mute, especially after marriage for women. Colors get very muted. So we're talking a very, very deep teal. We're talking a maroon. We're talking a navy blue. These very muted jewel tone colors. And then somebody reaches elderhood, and then suddenly the colors switch again to that of, like, what I call, like, rainy day. So it's very, sleet gray, a lot of gray tones, a lot of sleet, a lot of black, a lot of very, 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 very deep purple, very, very, very deep, 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 deep maroon, almost midnight blue. We start to see dusty rose is huge amongst elders. And then uh with elderly men, we see like mahogany, chocolate, these very, very deep colors. um, or they are like a grayish sky blue, somewhere along those lines. And that's the only thing I've really seen. I've seen that pattern go across all of Indian country pretty much. And also, there's an affinity for olive green for men. I don't really comprehend that because I don't think it looks good on their skin tone, but I prefer charcoal, but that's just me. Okay, well, let's see. Is it okay to wear jewelry being sold publicly? Yes, for the most part, yeah. Ceremonial garb or attire, ceremonial jewelry, how about that, is usually commissioned, meaning it is paid for and bought with a specific idea for that one ceremony. And so because ceremonial attire is so symbolic. There's so much deep meaning and all this stuff, and you have to pray and you have to go through. The artist has to go through a lot in order to make a ceremonial item or a ceremonial piece of jewelry, and so you have to do that privately and specially. What you see on the powwow circuit, what you see at a jewelry vendor, what you see in a gallery, what you see at a museum, what you see for sale with a price tag, pretty much it's all good. You can wear it. Chance, especially if it's like in a touristy place, it's actually sold with the intention of a non-native person wearing it. If you are a little worried, you can ask the person who's selling it to you, like, "Yo, can I wear this? Like, I don't want to get canceled," and just be upfront and honest, and they'll let you know. Pretty much, the general rule is if it's under, I want to say if it's under $250, chances are you can wear it anywhere. It's when you start going in the really, really, really high prices that it's like, oh wait, is this cool? And that's when I would start asking questions. But anyway, alrighty. Well, thank you so much for commenting and for participating in my channel. Thank you so much for all of your kind messages and all of your lovely donations and all of the wonderful, wonderful things that have happened in the past few months or weeks. Yes, it's been weeks, not months. We're still on month one. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day and thank you so much.